Hello and welcome to this video. Today we're going to learn how to install MySQL and connect it to Python. So first thing we want to do is go onto the MySQL website and go to downloads. Now we want to ignore all this because that's for businesses and real-time processing, and we want to click Community Edition. And we want to scroll down until we get to the MySQL on Windows installer and tools. And just click the first option, MySQL installer. This will allow us to install all these different components. And you need to navigate to the bottom and choose the download you want. There's a web community installer and a community installer. I believe, now I'm not sure, but I believe that the web community version allows you, can only be run when you're online, whilst with the installer, the community installer, you can run it offline. That's why it's a bit larger in size. So we're just going to use the web version, and we're just going to you just have to ignore this and just click no thanks, just start my download, unless you want to make an Oracle web account, which I'm sure you do not, unless you do, of course, but most people wouldn't. Now you're going to get two pop-ups. The three pop-ups, the one I just clicked yes to on the browser, and this one here as well, and now you just have to say yes to all the pop-ups that come up, essentially. Now, once you do that, you should be greeted with the setup type. We're going to use custom and click next. And this brings us to the products and features that we can select to install. So, MySQL servers, that's something we want. We want the newest version. So you need to just choose the newest version here. Now, we also want a MySQL connector, and we want it for Python. And you need to select the one for the version of Python you're using. I believe we'll be using Python 3.6 for this particular tutorial, and we're going to pick the one that isn't grayed out, the by 64 version. So we're just going to click that. So we've got a MySQL server with connector. So the other thing we want is the MySQL Workbench, which acts as a developer interface that allows you to directly interact and run SQL scripts on the actual server itself. So we're just going to pick the version here and then click the green arrow. Now that we have that, we can click next. Now, path conflicts, this may not come up for you. I have installed MySQL previously, so it's saying path conflict for me. It probably will not for you if this is your first time installing. So just click next and just click continue because we're doing a fresh install. And as you can see, we've got our three different products that we can install now. It says ready to download, and we're going to click execute. So as you can see, they go at different speeds. The server will take the longest, so I'm going to speed this up in post editing. So see you back after this. So the downloads have completed. So what we need to do is click next. And we now need to configure the MySQL server. So this will bring us to this interface here. Now, we are going to we're going to say that our SQL server is going to be a standalone SQL server because it's only being run on one machine. So we're going to click next. Now, this networking setting should be fine, so we can click next. Now, says authentication method. So we must use the legacy authentication method because we're using Python in order to connect to the to MySQL, and I know it says recommended, but the encryption on the password interferes with the connection. So use the legacy authentication method. Now, accounts and roles. So you need to make a root user who will be able to access the entire database. This will be your essentially developer user. So you need to pick a password that you'll remember. So I'm gonna say password 123, password 123 as my root password. I know it says weak, but it's you choose your own password. But for the purposes of this demonstration, I'm using a weak password, all lowercase password 123. So I'm going to click next now. Ignore this and click next. Now this is fine. That's fine. Run Windows service as a start. Yep. Next. And now you have to click execute to apply all the changes. And now we're initializing the database server, so this may take a long time. So I'll get back to you once this is finished. Oh well, it's finished now. Okay, right. Well, that was faster than normal. Okay, finished. Configuration complete. Now I'm going to click next. And now the installation is complete, so now we can start Mysql Workbench if we want to, which we do, so we're going to click Finish. And that should start Mysql Workbench, which it does. Oh, pardon me. Now we have our Workbench with a connection in the MySQL connections. So local instance, which means it's running on this machine of the MySQL server. So we're going to double click on that and you'll be prompted for your password. So my password is password 123. Now we are going to, now you can choose whether or not to, depending if your computer's your own, if you want to save the password to the vault, which means that you won't be prompted to type in your password again. I'm going to do that, but you don't have to. And now you have successfully installed the server, and now you can run scripts in the MySQL Workbench for your server. We have now installed the MySQL server, so now and configured it. So now we need to create a database on the server itself. So this is why the Workbench comes in handy, because you can execute SQL scripts directly. So we need to type in create database. Okay, and we're going to need to name that database. We're going to call that test database, but of course you can change that to whatever you want. You're going to run the script by pressing this lightning icon, and the green tick means it's gone through and the database has been created. So if we go go into the navigator menu and click schemas, as you can see there is one database there. That's the system database. That's just a default database and you should just ignore it. But click the refresh button and now test database has appeared. So we've now got our database on our server. So let's run some Python now. So get your Python idle up and make sure it's the correct version. So that matches your connector, and we're going to import mysql.connector. and we're going to define our database object here. So we have to type in mydb, so import the module and then type mydb equals mysql.connector.connect, open a bracket, and then press enter. Okay, and then put in host equals, and then localhost, because the database server is being hosted on your local machine, the one you're using. Press comma and then space, user equals root, press comma, then password, but it's not password as in the full, it's just pass and then wd equals, and then your password. I hope you've remembered it, and you can see why we use the you can see why we use the legacy password encryption, because Python actually has to log in and into the server. So, and then finally database. So the database we're concerned with is test database. So at the end of that, you need to press enter again and press the bracket, to the closing bracket, to complete the line. So we've got our data in now. So to check that the database has been successfully connected to, we're going to do print my database. So this will return the my database object. I'm going to run this, and yes, it does return the connection object. Okay, so connection is successful. So I'm going to show you how to create your first table, and now we don't need to use the workbench because we're going to run the SQL script in Python. So the first thing you need to do is type in my cursor equals, and then mydb.cursor, and then bracket bracket. So that defines the cursor object, and the cursor object is essentially the tool used to run SQL statements from Python to the server. So we're going to need to define our SQL to create our table. So we're going to make a nice string here, and we're going to type in the SQL here, make sure it's triple brackets, create table, make sure it's all in caps, if not exists. Now the if not exists bit prevents, if you're running this again, it prevents the creation of another table. So create table if not exists, and we're going to make a table for pupils, and we're going to open brackets now. We're going to type in pupil ID, as all tables should have a unique field, and we're going to put pupil ID int, because it's an integer, and pupil name. Normally first name and second name would be separated, but we're just going to disregard that. And we're going to make that varchar 255. Okay, so the last thing you have to do is, before I forget, always make sure to close your brackets. See the way there's two sets of brackets there and there? Make sure you close them, otherwise you'll get an error. And we have to now do my cursor dot execute, and you just pass in your table SQL, and to ensure that it's finished, we're just going to print done. Let's run this. So we've printed done, which means that it's finished executing. So if we head back to our workbench, the workbench allows you to visualize what's in your database as well. Now you're probably wondering why we had to specify the particular database. This is because in the workbench you yourself have to specify what database you're using. So double click on that, and you see the way that goes bold. So now any script you type in here which relates to which can be related to this database will be ran in this database. And as you can see, we've now got an option for under tables, and we can see the pupil table has been created. So now you can see that you can indeed run SQL scripts from Python. And that is the end of this video. Thank you for watching.